radio show that officially does not exist. This is Planet X. Planet.
Hey there. You, wake up. Wake up!
You're here because you know something. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there.
We've obviously got incredible disinformation on the mainstream media. In fact, it's consistently disinformation.
Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind.
I want you to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real or is this just a ride?
But I've met a lot of people in my life, and I can't, to my knowledge, recall anyone who wanted a war, who had any interest in wars.
I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that.
I felt it necessary to understand why I was here and what here meant. What did that even mean, being here on the planet?
Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
And other people have remembered, and they come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever. This is just a ride.
So today on Good Vibrations, we're chatting with Chris Spivey, who is a former writer for Sovereign Independent, and he now runs his own blog site, chrisspivey.co.uk. It's got a fairly unique style. It's hard-hitting. It's not the sort of thing you'd necessarily share with your local vicar when he comes round for tea, but he definitely gets his information across, and he posts virtually daily on stuff that's happening in the mainstream news, but with a definite alternative slant to it. And we're talking today specifically about the Woolwich incident, which occurred on the 22nd of May this year. There's been a lot of conjecture about this, a lot of analysis of the official version of events, and there's lots of researchers and bloggers who are of the opinion that all is not as we're being told with the official version of it. And Chris has gone into this in a big way. He's preparing an article at the moment which I think is several thousand words long, and it's due to be unleashed any day now. So how are you doing today, Chris?
I'm not so bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all right, mate. Good to kick it to you. We're really going to get inside what is quite an emotive issue for many people, particularly in the UK, because we've had Sandy Hook and Boston and events such as that, and people have called those out as being hoaxes and, you know, false flag type events. But this one is particularly hard hitting for people in the UK because it happened on British soil, and a lot of people have already got upset about various claims that things aren't quite as they seem. But you, in a nutshell, are convinced from your research that this is a hoax event which was used, which was staged using actors. So do you just want to give us an overview of how you arrived at that decision? And do you want to just highlight some of the discrepancies and anomalies and strange things that you've noticed along the way?
Well, I sort of knew straight away, Mark, from the totally over-the-top reaction by the government, you know, this calling of COPA. Whoever's heard of COPA before, certainly never heard of it. David Cameron cutting his trip short, the Queen being informed and kept up to date about it, and Ed Miliband, him cutting his trip short, his foreign trip short, you know, and he was totally over the top, and straight away that got my my antenna dingling, and you know, it just didn't sort of tie in. They were sort of like saying it was a terrorist attack. Before they could possibly know that, you know, and you had the Woolwich MP, Nick Rainsford, saying it was a soldier who had been attacked before he could possibly know that. The MOD hadn't even confirmed that themselves, you know. So straight away, I knew something wasn't right there.
Okay. So you've been all over this story from the start, and you're in the process of putting together this highly comprehensive article.
Yes, yeah, I'm about 18,000 words so far, although this is the second one that I've actually done. You find the other one on my website. But this one, relies mainly on the photographic evidence, because if you watch the videos enough times, you get to plot people's movements, and some people have dubious movements, to say the least. But this filming from supposedly just a bystander at the bus, that was I've got definite proof that was at least filmed by two different people, although we're supposed to believe it was just the one. But I have undisputable proof that it was filmed by two people. I also believe that it was actually probably filmed more times than that, because if you look at a lot of the stills, the shop is open. The shop being the used to be the Queen Victoria pub, and that's like a supermarket. But in some shops it's open, other shops it's closed, and not just door lock. I'm talking about the shutters down. So what we have, you have sort of these shutters down on this shop before Michael Adebolojo he crosses the street to speak to this so-called this bystander. Then while he's being filmed, the shop is clearly open, and then seconds after he's been shot, you get a glimpse of the door again, and the shutters are down. So it's sort of like closed, open, closed, Yeah. So that makes no sense whatsoever. Plus, the spectators, they change rather rapidly in different scenes. And I say, how could that be?
Yeah. There's been lots of discrepancies that are very well documented in the various YouTube videos that we've seen, and people are highlighting the same kind of aspects over and over again, and asking questions such as who films a maniac that's just tried to hack off a man's head and is still holding the bloodied cleaver, sort of calmly talking to the camera, who stands around looking bored in the background when a guy's just apparently been beheaded or attempted beheaded.
It's a horrific thing, I mean, I've never chopped anyone's head off, Mark, and I suppose
me neither, mate. No,
I know that if I did it, I'd be a bit more nervous than what Michael Adebolojo certainly was about it.
Well, yeah, and we've got the body in the road, clearly not having any blood around it, even though we apparently see some blood on the
shots. It does in some shots, but again, this is a discrepancy, Mark, because. I believe that he was filmed at least twice, because in some shots there isn't blood, in other shots there are. Now,
2 takes.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe they did this by if you follow on the day I followed as it was happening on the Telegraph website, and round about 6 o'clock, 6:30, the Telegraph announced that they was evacuating the flats. That's that block of flats. Next to the sea, which incidentally is the only residential place in that particular part of the street, which must have been like a million to one coincidence that it wasn't more of a residential area. But the Telegraph announced that they was evacuating these flats to carry out a controlled explosion on the car. Now, no controlled explosion ever took place on the car, but even if it had done, there'd have been no reason to evacuate the flats, because it's by definition a controlled explosion.
Yeah.
But still, I say the Telegraph, and I've got print screens of this that's going in the new article about this controlled explosion on this car that never took place. I think the reason that was done, I mean, the Telegraph wouldn't make that up. And the Telegraph, incidentally, was the feeder paper for all the other news, all the other MSM papers. They all refer to the Telegraph's article, Okay. So it seemed like the Telegraph was being pushed this information that everybody else used. Now, the reason I believe that they evacuate the flats was to film parts of it again. Hence, there's blood in some scenes and no blood in other scenes, Now, there are you said there was no blood coming from the body. I have got pictures of trails of blood coming from the body, and I've got pictures of no blood there whatsoever.
Right.
So it's not exactly correct to say that there was no blood coming from the body. But I say, I believe this was done afterwards. But official procedure on any crime scene is that all blood on pavements or roads, whatever, is numbered and marked. This is the most important part of any crime scene, Mark. And I say I've got official, the official procedure, which is also going in the articles about, and all of them stress that scenes of where there's blood has to be numbered, extensively photographed, covered over and whatnot. And there's no, the little number marking, the little cones that have numbers on them, that you see on the crime scenes. There's none of that by any of the blood on these crime scenes. So straight away, official procedure was broken on police behalf,
We were talking the other day about the car as well, and you were examining the damage that was exhibited by the car, and the fact that there was no damage exhibited on the posts that it's alleged to have gone into, and also you were questioning the position of the car in the photos that we've seen.
Exactly, yeah. I've been on Google Earth. You can tell a lot from Google Earth Maps, and now we're supposed to believe that this Lee Rigby was targeted by these two Michaels. Well, if he was targeted, it was 1,000,000 to 1 chance that he could get him, because we're talking about London now, don't forget. And if they'd have came in from the left on John Wilson Street, which incidentally is where all the MSN papers are saying it took place, and it didn't. It took place on a road called Arterial Place. If they'd have come in from the left, the traffic lights are set back, so they wouldn't have been able to see. Similarly, if they're coming from the right on John Wilson Street into Arterial Place, the traffic lights are too far back for them to see that side of the road. If they're coming from Wellington Place or Wellington Road, which is directly opposite Arterial Place, it's on a big incline. And once again, even if they'd have been first at the traffic lights, they still wouldn't have been able to see because of the signposts and whatnot. Plus, as soon as they got into John Wilson Street, Arterial Place, and Arterial Place is a very, very busy road. Don't get me, very busy road. So even had they got into Arterial Place, straight away he would have had a split second to get across the carriageway in order to get that straight, because the car hit the signpost straight on, and the only place he could do that was just straight after the traffic lights there. So he'd have had to, dive across the carriageway in the hope that there was no build-up of traffic there, onto the pavement and up the pavement. He couldn't. He didn't come in at an angle. He hit it straight on.
Yeah.
So he obviously was banking on no other person being on the pavement as well, apart from him. It hit this signpost. Apparently bounced back. Now I've got quite a few number of photographs of various other scenes where cars have hit signs, and in all of them, the signs have gone up because they're designed to crumple. They're not designed to withstand, a car impact, especially at that speed.
Yeah.
But, as you say, there's no damage on it. It's bounced back at least a foot, maybe more. Now, we're supposed to believe that this car hit Lee Rigby first. So if it did, it would have pinned him against this signpost, and that would have cut him in half. I mean, like I was saying to you the other day, I had a friend in the late 80s who witnessed a fight outside a nightclub, and he was sort of standing at the bus stop, and one of these people involved in the fight got in his car and drove his car with the crowd, and he was pinned against the bus stop, and he lost his leg. And he was going nowhere near the speed that this car was obviously going to have to cause such damage. So that would have cut him in half for a start. But say that it hit him before it hit the sign and he bounced. We're then supposed to believe that these two terrorists got out of the car and started hacking his head off. Well, the passenger side door doesn't open, and which is consistent with that, because all the damage is to that side of it anyway. So what did he clamber over the seat? Sort of like 1 mile out, 2 miles out. And I know the car door doesn't open because we have these pictures of these people in forensic quite why they're dressed in masks and suits and that when the site has already been contaminated. I don't know, but he's trying to sort of peer into the car by the little gap in the window because he can't open the door. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of all these reports about them flying out of the car and hacking his head off. That's total rubbish. Then we're supposed to believe that they then, after causing all this damage to him, dragged him out into the middle of the road. Well, why? Why would they drag him out into the middle of the road? And in doing this, one of them pulled a gun out and stopped that white lorry that was there all the time. Now, we're supposed to believe that the lorry driver cracked himself, and started running and hasn't been seen since, because he certainly hasn't been mentioned in the mainstream media. And one of the Michaels has pointed a gun at this lorry. So you think, well, why did he do that? I mean, it was convenient that he did, because the lorry sort of blocks that side of the carriageway off then, along with Repton Place, which is your first turning on your right as you turn into Arterial Place, where the school is located down that road. So that was convenient, but why did he do it? You have to ask yourself, there's no reason to do it. And why did the lorry driver run and carry on? But obviously, before we got out, he took his keys, because no one could move this lorry. No one in the he's apparently capable of hot wiring a lorry or something. So he stayed there for hours on end. But why did the lorry driver bugger off? Why didn't he just mingle with the crowd that sort of gathered,
Well, the bloke filming it wasn't so scared, was he?
He wasn't, no. Now, you have to argue, the actual bus, that blocks the other side of the carriageway by stopping there. And when you look at all the photos, you see people getting on and getting off the bus. And Ingrid Kennett, the witness, she said she had to fight her way through people getting onto the bus. So hence you think it's a bus stop. But it isn't a bus stop. There's no bus stop there.
Yeah.
So, why was people getting on and getting off? Why did the bus driver stop there? If a man's got a gun, surely his responsibility is to his passengers and himself, really. So why did he park right where the action's going on?
Well, this seems to be a key part of it, because when you study the aerial shots, or when you study a composite of the pictures, you've got the lorry clearly blocking one side of the carriageway and the bus blocking the other, and this would explain why there's no through traffic in any of the footage. Ordinarily, you'd expect traffic to be flowing the whole time on both sides of the road.
Exactly, and along Repton Place as well, which is the road that leads into the lorry is halfway blocking anyway. But there's no build-up of traffic behind it, Mark, either. Now, how can that be?
Suggesting that the area was already sealed off before the event happened.
Down, had to further up Repton Place, further up Arterial Place, and further up John Wilson Street and Wellington Road opposite, because there is no build-up of traffic behind the lorry or behind the bus. In fact, the bus reversed seconds before the armed response unit got there. Now, normally he wouldn't have been able to go anywhere because there'd have been a mile of traffic behind him. But he reversed. Now, you got to say, why did he reverse just seconds before the armed police turned up? Well, if he hadn't have done, where the armed police BMW pulled in, it would have rammed him up the arse. So it's obvious he pulled him, because this looks like quite a long stretch of road, but it's not. It's about 5 white lines long. It's not a long area at all. So the bus driver pulled back. Why didn't he pull forward? That doesn't make sense. I say why he was there, God knows anyway. But Ingrid Kennett then says that she saw the bus moving and she got back on. The bus was moving backwards. Now, once again, official she said, she got back on the bus and the bus continued on its journey. Now, this bus driver who hasn't been named either, had just seen someone have their head hacked off. Would he be in a fit state to drive? Obviously he was. So he took this bus, but he must have taken a different route, because he couldn't get through. And once he pulled back. Yeah. But that goes completely against official procedure again, where the policemen on the site, their first job is to secure witnesses. And what better witness than the bus driver and the people on the bus? Yes, especially someone who filmed this. Although I say I've got indisputable proof that it was filmed by at least 2 people, although we're supposed to believe it was one person who has made a YouTube video, but he doesn't want to be named. But I say, you know, it was filmed by at least 2 people.
I've seen the YouTube video which alleges to have been filmed on the bus, and there's audio which apparently has a girl saying, "We've got another scene to film," or words to that effect.
Funny enough, Mark, I've just been looking for that because I'm just doing a bit of work on the article now. And just before you call, I'm looking for that video and I can't find it anywhere. Did you know that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've definitely seen it, and
I've definitely seen it too. And I know it's I'm saying I'm specifically looking for this video.
Yeah,
can't find it.
Yeah, that's a strange one. But you got they put subtitles on it to kind of make it a bit clearer what she's saying, because it's all kind of muffled. But it does sound as if she's saying we've got another scene to film, or words to that effect. And then they start talking about a McDonald's lunch when a guy has apparently just had his head hacked off.
Exactly. And I say that there's people getting on and getting off this bus, but there's no bus stop there, so that doesn't make sense, you know. And only an idiot would sort of keep parked right opposite where someone's brandishing a gun about.
Yeah.
So you don't. There also other anomalies are. They say that quite a few witnesses said that the helicopter landed in Mulgrave School, which once again simply isn't true. Now I've got the video of a little boy pulling on heartstrings, saying how scared he was and whatnot, and the air ambulance landed in their playground. When it didn't, it landed on John Wilson Street. So, you know, straight away, why would a little boy, and 3 or 4 witnesses as well, not just a little boy, say it landed on the school playground when it didn't? It doesn't make sense. You know, I mean, Mulgrave School and the junction of John Wilson Street, they're a distance apart anyway. You know, and there's no mistaking the two. And all the pictures show it landed on John Wilson Street.
You also question the time of day when this event is supposed to have taken place.
Once again, yeah, we have witnesses say, you know, the children were coming out of school and I shouted, "Stop! Get back! Well, from start to finish, it took place between 2:20 and 2:50. Now, where I live, Mark, is quite a low crime area, you know, and I used to take my little girl to primary school and pick her up. And the procedure is that they don't let kids out until they see their parents there.
That's right.
You know, otherwise you'd have a scenario where kids wandering around left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
So they don't let them out until the parents arrive. Now, I don't know any primary school that sort of comes out at sort of 20 to 3 in the afternoon. But we have the witness, and Ingrid Kennett herself says, you know, there was children there and whatnot, which isn't compatible with the photographic evidence, you know. But children just wouldn't walk out of a primary school, even if they came out at 2:45 in the afternoon. They wouldn't walk out, especially in London. I say they don't even do it in this low crime area I live in. They're not going to do it in London because if a 7-year-old goes missing and just being able to wander out the school gate on his own back, there's going to be hell to pay, you know. So you always have a teacher on the gate who releases the children to you as the teacher sees the parents, you know. So that makes no sense whatsoever either. I say the fact that we've got all these witnesses yelling at kids to get back who was coming out the school gates, you know, that simply didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I say especially not at 2:45 at the absolute latest in the afternoon, you know. So say most primary schools I know come out between 3 and 3:30.
Yeah. The suggestion is that most of the characters involved in this event were actors, but when we get into Ingrid Kennett herself, you feel that there's a different answer as to who she is. Do you want to just get into that?
Yeah, well, something else that's disappeared off the web, once again, I've got the proof of it, is that she supposedly, because she lives in Cornwall, see? Now she speaks with a very dodgy French accent, despite being born to English parents, they say, in France, but she came back over here as a teenager.
It's like the two Michaels talking about our lands, things that happen in our lands, in broad South London born and bred accents.
They do, but and if you notice, they say Orlando, and then right at the end, Michael Adebayo makes a mistake, and he says, "Bring our troops home." So you know, it's all the way through. He's saying your country, like, you know, your government, and but it's bring our troops.
And then he's a Londoner again.
And he's a Londoner, and in all the other pictures that you see him in, where he's supposedly taking part in these protests and preaching, he has you know, the cap on and the robes and whatnot. Yeah, in this one, he's dressed like your normal everyday guy, you know, which is inconsistent. But either way.
Yeah, sorry, getting back to Ingrid, you were.
Yeah. So Ingrid's got this dodgy French accent. Well, quite why she's got a dodgy French accent, I don't know. But she had family who were in MI5, which straight away brings your antenna up. But we're supposed to believe that she was in London because it was her son's birthday. And but she'd come directly from France. Okay, she'd been away in France, stopped off in London, and now she was heading home. And with a bag, who she asked someone to look after. Now, most women I know, if they go away for a week, they need to take 10 suitcases. But apparently Ingrid, who'd just come in from France, stopped over in London, and when I was going home, had a bag, which she asked a stranger to look after, which sort of makes no sense at all. But then, as you watch the video footage of this, you can see that she's directing it. She's directing the whole play, and in fact, the woman with the shopping trolley, as she walks down the road, there's a fella who sort of dawdles behind her, all dressed in black, and Ingrid comes over to talk to this fella, and they walk away, and that's the last you see of Ingrid. But I say, you know, but she tells us that she carried on with the journey, which just doesn't make no sense. I say, because the bus driver, even if he was in a fit state, he would have had to take a different route. I've checked the timetables of buses to Cornwall. 4 o'clock was the last one of the day. And she'd arranged to meet her son there. Well, if she'd been staying with her son, why did she need to meet her son at Victoria Station? You know, that sort of doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But in normal traffic, according to the bus timetable for the 53 bus which he was on, it takes 35 minutes from Woolwich to, well, it doesn't go all the way to Victoria. It stops at Horse Guard Parade. So then you've got a bit of a hike to Victoria Station from there. But say she was held up half an hour and the bus carried on, traffic would have been building up in the area, yet she still managed to make this 4 o'clock bus to Cornwall, or so we're told, completely against police policy. So then you think, well, how did the police track her down as a witness so quickly? Well, again, we have this ridiculous situation where her son's saying that he saw this picture of her on Twitter, despite meeting her. Now, I studied his Twitter, and this photograph came in at 8:05. But it's the famous one where you're looking down towards John Wilson Street, and Ingrid's got her back to you, and Michael Adebayo, the other one, the quiet one, is holding the knife, and they're talking with him. And Basil, her son, tweeted, you know, that's my mother in this photo. Well, you check who's the owner of the photo, and he's a member. If he's not a member of the EDL, he's certainly an EDL supporter, and he likes to retweet Tommy Robinson. And you study his Twitter, and there's all manner of news agencies asking if they can have permission to use this photo. And he said, it's not my photo. It was my friend's uncle's photo who doesn't want to be identified. You know, so that's sort of muddying the trails. But somehow or other, they knew who Ingrid was. So let's just suppose, for argument's sake, that they're clever that way. We know they're not, but let's say they are. So they know who Ingrid was. She's then put under contract by an unspecified news agency for a week because there's tweets from her daughter's boyfriend who lives in Cornwall, despite the daughter living in London, so we're told. And he was getting requests for an interview with his girlfriend's mother. And he's saying that she can't do any interviews because she's under contract for a week. So She certainly, for someone who wasn't bothered and can't see what the fuss is about, she certainly got herself very, very busy very, very quickly.
Yeah, you've clearly done your homework with all of this when it comes to bus timetables and all the rest of it. And this is the thing. There's a lot of people that are getting very upset at the suggestion that this might be a staged event. And they're saying, it's so disrespectful. A woman's lost her son. How can you be so callous and heartless? But everything you're highlighting here can be backed up with photographic evidence or other type of evidence.
And it is a bit hard to sort of explain it in words without the photos in front of you, Mark. Do you know?
Yeah. But the question to the adherents to the official story that say, no, this is exactly as we were told in the news, is, okay, can you explain away all these many inconsistencies? I've got a list here of questions that I've got about it, and there's about 25 questions. And I know that there are many, many other discrepancies. So we're probably, there's probably a good 50 or 60 things that don't quite add up. So the challenge then to anyone that says it happened exactly as we were told is, can you explain away these 50 or 60 discrepancies? It does seem to defy credibility a bit.
The most for me is the fact that the shop is closed in some shops and open in others, and I don't mean just the door locked. The shutter pulled down. If the proprietor had nipped to the toilet, although there's two entrances to this supermarket shop sort of thing, he'd just locked the door and stuck his sign back in a minute, whatever. But the shutter is actually pulled down. So, which has to be done from the outside, as far as I'm aware of these things, Yet minutes later, it's back up again. So it's up, down. Why is that? Yeah. And the fact that the bus, Ingrid says that she got back on the bus and carried on with her journey, which I say goes completely against official police procedure. And the police was there when the bus, went. I say because the driver would have had to take a different route altogether, and all them people on the bus were potential witnesses. So straight away, they'd have been detained. That is the official procedure, Mark. That's not, just how I do it. That is official procedure. Although different forces have their different way of working, that it states you have an official procedure, and when you secure the witnesses, secure the site, which wasn't done. The site was contaminated. So why you got people walking up and down in spacesuits, I don't know. They're absolutely ridiculous because anything they found is contaminated.
Yeah.
Also, you have someone, once the site is sealed, you then have someone who has to log everyone who goes onto the site and out. And once again, you look at the overhead footage, and there's people walking willy-nilly backwards and forwards. No one taking a log. Official procedure not followed. You have the ridiculous where you have then a long line of policemen down on their hands and knees, and the policewoman looking at the wall, which is round the corner. Why? There was 50 or 60 people on that lawn. Anything they find is contaminated. It's not admissible. Why is she looking for bullets around the corner? What kind of gun shoots around the corner and into a wall?
Yeah.
It was all done for show, Mark. No other reason,
See, I'm sure researchers such as yourself and many others would not have been so quick to look into the fine minutiae of this event had it not been for the fact that we've had similar scenarios before, notably Sandy Hook and Boston, which a lot of researchers are convinced were hoaxes using actors as well. Because those events went before, it's kind of motivated a lot of people to look into the fine detail of this. What we seem to have is a scenario now where the powers that be used to stage false flag terror events such as 9/11 and 7/7 to achieve their aims, but if you go for these theories, they seem to have switched up their MO to now staging events which are hoaxes using actors, so they're not real events. And it's all very reminiscent of this story we have of way back, October 30th, 1938, Orson Welles doing this radio broadcast in the US of War of the Worlds. And it was presented as fact, even though it was a fictional story. And there was absolute widespread panic among the people listening to the radio broadcast who thought it was real. And we seem to be having a modern interpretation of that idea being played out here. Because you can never rely on a terrorist event happening when you need one. So the best way when you need one is to stage one, it would seem.
It would, yeah. And I mean, I did an article called The Camera Never Lies, which was on the Boston bombing, which I believe, I'm a little bit biased, that proves beyond any doubt that it was a false flag. Now, I got attacked by people mainly from America, verbally attacked, actually. But, you know, how can you sort of say this about these poor people and you wouldn't say it to their face? Well, I can tell you now, Mark, I would love dearly to say it to their face. But I'm telling you, Jeff Bauman, the man who had that bit of pipe hanging out of his leg, being carted away in the wheelchair, is an actor. And I know that beyond any doubt. And Sidney Corcoran, who the young 18-year-old who supposedly Jeff Bauman left his hospital bed 3 days after having both of his legs blown off to give her a birthday present. She supposedly had her femoral artery severed. Well, to end up where she did, she must have been blown through the air 20 feet around the corner. Although her dad says, you know, he saw her fly past with his arms plate, but even then she couldn't land it where they said. But you have this ridiculous photo where you have a stranger treating this severed femoral artery, which if you not get proper treatment, you're dead within 2 minutes, and a paramedic taking a pulse, happy to let this stranger treat his femoral artery, and she's taking Sidney Corcoran's pulse and not timing it on anything, watching that. And I've checked once again, you can't. It's impossible to do. You can't take someone's pulse and not time it. She's obviously alive, so she wasn't checking to see whether she was alive, you know. But then I've also got photos of Sidney Corcoran walking away. So she didn't fly through the air; she walked. But first she stood and watched bits and pieces, and then walked. And you don't do that if you've got severed femoral artery. Then 2 days later, she's in hospital, looking out the window, all happy and made up and everything, no crutches or anything, you know. And this photo is accompanied by the paper saying that her foot was nigh on blown off. You know, it was hollow and she lost a lot of bone and whatnot. You know, you just think, well, how is she standing there looking so happy? Similarly, her mother, who supposedly lost both of her legs in that. Well, Sidney Corcoran flew through the air 24, if we're to believe the official version, and the mother who was standing next to her went down and hit the deck like a sack of spuds. But once again, I've got the man who's supposed to be Michael Corcoran, her husband, although I don't think it is because he's in dark glasses and whatnot, and a baseball cap pulled down over his eyes, lower into position. Plus, I've got photos of Celeste, her name is, beforehand, and she has obviously got false legs. So once again, I say to you, they're bullshitting. This didn't happen. And people say, well, why would they do it? Why would they fake it? Well, I've read all manner of figures of money that's been raised. The last one I read was $80 million, and their personal donate sign was over $1 million. So now, just on the strength of that, telling a few porkies, they're millionaires.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a very valid question. If you take the suggestion that these people are actors, the question has to be, what motivates anyone to take part in such a wicked deception as this, preying on the emotions of genuine people? And what amount of pay could ever justify it? You know, and also if they're actors, they'll never be able to work again. This is their only gig. They can't appear in anything else because the game would be up. That's not strictly true, though, is it, Mark? Because we had people from 9/11 who was on the scene straight away saying, yeah, it was that Osama bin Laden who done it, turning up at Sandy Hook. Right. Yeah. So that's not strictly true. But I say these people make a lot. Well, there won't be any EastEnders anyway. No, there won't be any EastEnders. But they make a lot of money out of it, you know. So you think the motivation is purely money? Yeah. I mean, you'd have to be pretty devoid of compassion and empathy and humanity to do something like this just for money, wouldn't you? Like, I'm convinced that Ingrid Kennett isn't an actor, that I'm convinced that she's working for the security services and she was directing this thing, you know. I say just by her actions alone, she said she confronted these people, but she's hardly there. The only time you ever really see her speak to anyone is when she speaks to Michael Adebayo Whale, the quiet one, and that's the only time that she speaks to him, you know. But I say, in the meantime, she's directing them. And incidentally, there's meant to be, they talk about these three heroes who 82,000 people have signed a petition calling for them to get a medal. Now, there was actually four
in a lot of scenes. There's a blonde-haired woman, and Gemini Donnelly, the daughter of the one who was down on the ground comforting this body, she's nowhere to be seen. So you think, well, why has Amanda Donnelly and Gemini Donnelly and Ingrid Kennett being put up for these medals, and this blonde woman who was there quite a lot of the time hasn't even been mentioned in the mainstream media, you know? Well, the reason I think she hasn't is because I don't think she was meant to be there, Mark. And I say this because I can track her movements, or I do track her movements in photographs again. And when the police turn up, and go, get back, after everyone's had their chance to take their photos, she tries to approach this policeman, obviously wanting to talk to him, and he just shoots her away. And next thing you see, she's standing on John Wilson Street when the helicopter's landing. So I believe that she wasn't part of it, and that's why she hasn't been mentioned. Yet she's there. Anyone who goes on my site will know that I had a sort of preview to this article that's coming out, where you get a paramedics car drive past on the video. Now, if you blink, you'd miss it. But we know the road is sort of sealed off anyway, you know. But this paramedic car goes past fleetingly. So it's on there for no more than 2 seconds, just in the top corner. But once you freeze frame it and everything, you can get clear photos of it. And you know, where did this paramedic car go? Because it's not on any other photographs or anything. It's all blocked in, and this was before Michael Adebayojo went and did his famous speech. You know, so it's quite 10 minutes into the action sort of thing. You know. Yeah. So why don't you see this ambulance car parked at the top of the road, sort of thing?
So we've got this real busy part of London, as we said, a particularly busy street, and you would imagine that there would be a lot of regular people that wouldn't have been involved in this hoax, that would have been going about their business, needing to get down that street for whatever reason, and either they would have been allowed to go down the street and they would have seen what was happening, or the street would have been blocked off and they would not have been able to get to where they would ordinarily need to go. You would think that there would be quite a number of these people coming forward and saying, hey, there was something strange that day. I tried to get down the road and it had been blocked off and there was all this stuff going on. And you'd think that they would try and take their story to the media to let people know what was going on. But we don't seem to have heard about these.
Well, like we've already discussed, the obvious, without a doubt, the road was blocked off further up the road than what we're being told, because there's no backup traffic, there's no build up of traffic. Yeah. So that's obvious. I personally believe that most of the majority of spectators were actors, extras, but saying that there was a few who sort of witnessed this and didn't, and people are a little bit stupid, Mark, aren't they?
Well, they can be,
yeah. And the thing, well, if they couldn't get past or what was going on, I thought they was making a film, and obviously they weren't. But even if you get someone who's a bit clued up, say this blonde woman, who appears in lots of photos and videos, but isn't named anywhere, she appeared to be a bit clued up, so she goes to the media. Well, the media's controlled. The media aren't going to print it, are they, Mark?
Well, the mainstream media would bury it, wouldn't they?
Simple as that. Like I said, I mean, I had a big story out a little while ago that the mainstream media got warned of about an African, South African terrorist who entered the country illegally under a false name after murdering 8 people, working as a social worker. Now, my site gets up to 500,000 visitors a month. And that's a lot of people. Yet still this story about this terrorist isn't widely known. So even if it's sort of like, this blonde woman that tried to go into the mainstream media, they're not having any of it. Like the mainstream media would, when people were phoning up about this article about this terrorist, they was all phoning up the media about it, saying, why are you reporting on this? And emailing their MPs and whatnot, and they wasn't interested. you know, and then just sort of getting fobbed off. So I say this blonde woman goes to the mainstream media, she's going to get fobbed off. So then she tells some people, and these people tell some more people, and these people tell some more people. But what you got a few hundred people, Mark. Well, I say I've got half a million readers every month, and still this story, the terrorist, isn't well known. So this woman who hasn't even got the same outlet as I've got, you know, she's telling people that he was fake and whatnot. Eventually, it just becomes urban legend. You know, and like Chinese whispers, the story gets distorted as it goes, and all credibility is destroyed. You know.
Yeah. Something else that people are finding strange is the fact that in this age of multimedia, where everyone and their dog has got an iPhone capable of taking video footage, the only footage that we've seen is of the aftermath of the attack. There's no footage at all of the attack actually taking place, when people seemingly whip out their phones and film a dog peeing against a tree on a whim, but we have no footage of the actual attack itself, and people have said, well, surely somebody would have filmed it as it was happening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can look at when Ingrid Kennett said she got off the bus, she says herself that Amanda Donnelly was already down on the ground with the body. Now, Ingrid Kennett has told every paper going that she took the man's pulse. Well, you have video footage of...
Do you have one when your head's been chopped off?
No, you don't. No. But nevertheless, Ingrid supposedly took this soldier's pulse. But since the video footage sort of begins where Amanda Donnelly's already on the ground, why is there no video footage of her attack? Because Ingrid didn't take a pulse until Amanda Donnelly got up. So why is there no video footage of Ingrid taking Lee Rigby's pulse? And on top of that, I can prove that the body moves about anyway. So, yeah, I've got photos that in different positions, shall we say.
So we get on to an aspect of the whole story that a lot of people really have trouble with. If people up to this point have said, yeah, there are some strange things about it, I can see why you're raising questions about this. The point at which a lot of people seem to exit the story is when we get to the question of Lee Rigby himself, and the very pertinent question of whether he actually existed. And there seem to be three possibilities here as far as I can see. One is Lee Rigby was very much a real person, exactly as we were told, and what happened to him was what was portrayed in the mainstream media. Option two is that Lee Rigby did exist, or maybe still does, but he didn't die in the way that we're told he did. And option three is that Lee Rigby is an invented persona. And as I say, a lot of people get very upset about this, but it's something that we definitely need to look into, because the question of who Lee Rigby is or was or may have been is kind of key to the whole thing. What's your take on that?
Well, I haven't been able to disprove that Lee Rigby wasn't a real person, but there are quite a few anomalies surrounding him, you know. Not least that no one gives a rank, you know, for him. He's supposedly in the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers, but they're based in Cyprus.
Yeah.
Now, since 2011, 2 years, we're told that he's been on recruitment duties at Windsor Castle, which hasn't got recruitment. Obviously, it has one nearby, but it hasn't got one there. But he joined the army in 2006, so he's been in there 7 years. We assume that he's still a private, but no, you will not find anywhere where his rank is given, you know, whether private, or you know, sergeant, corporal, whatever. Now, according to the army website, the army's own website, anyone who's been in the army at least 6 years should be at the rank of corporal. But we're assuming he's not, because he's just called drummer, full-time drummer Rigby, which, as far as I know, isn't a rank. Now, I'm not saying that they don't call these people drummers, but it just doesn't make sense. You know, why has he been away from his regiment 2 years? sort of thing, on recruitment when the government have just offered this, I can't remember how many million, but it's a lot of millions of pounds contract to a private firm to recruit soldiers, you know. So why is he recruiting soldiers? Now, I have to say he was recruiting soldiers. Well, then why was he coming home at 2:20 in the afternoon? Which means he would have left the recruitment office at sort of 2 o'clock at the earliest, you know, to travel to London to sort of get there. Why wasn't he in uniform if he'd left the recruitment office? I know the recruitment office done close to sort of 5:30. Yeah, he was coming home. Yeah, they told this was a targeted attack. So how did they know that he was coming home? So he'd be there at 2:20 when really by rights he shouldn't be there till about 6 o'clock that night.
Yeah,
you know. That doesn't matter. And how did they know he was a soldier? And I say, as soon as they turned into an arterial place, they had a split second to make their move to get on the pavement like they did and hit him. And that, if it was possible at all, because I say you've got the traffic lights there, and there's always a build up of traffic. So you know that doesn't sort of make sense. Then we're supposed to believe that they had this gun. Which everyone said was a rusty old thing. Well, how anyone got that close to know it was a rusty old thing, I don't know. But you know, what kind of terrorist goes on a job with an untried rusty old gun? You know, so that it wasn't a very professional terrorist attack. But the whole thing, personally, I think Lee Rigby did exist. I think he probably died somewhere else. I don't think he was. I would imagine that he was a TA soldier. That's. I mean, if you Google Lee Rigby TA, there's an awful lot of sites come up for it. You know. On top of that, the early reports out and about, we have a woman saying that yes, she knew him and she didn't want to name him, but he was a nice kid and he just joined up. You know, that doesn't sort of add up. And you got a soldier confirming this story. Now, once again, this was in the Daily Mail. Well, you know, the Daily Mail gets things wrong, but to sort of print these things, you know, you think, how can you get it so wrong? And it's almost like they wrote a story and then as problems crop up, they change them to get round the story. Do you know? Do you understand what I mean?
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
And that's the only thing I can put it down. But I don't think Lee Rigby was real. But even if he was, I do think he was real, but I don't think he's who they say he was. But even if he was, you know, all the newspapers were portraying him as a hero and a great soldier and a really nice, solid, well turned out lad. Now he's in there 7 years and he's still a private. He's not even good enough to join his regiment. He's stuck on recruiting duties, which isn't really soldiering, is it? On top of that, you have his wife there at the press conference, crying her eyes out, and then it turns out that they're separated. So they get over this and say, yeah, but he was coming up this weekend to sort out our future, you know, with a view to getting back together again. All right, that's fine. But then it turns out he's got a fiance over in Afghanistan who they're flying home. So this solid, great lad is sort of leading one of them on, Mark, you know, which to me makes him a bit of a rat. You know, because then it turns out he's engaged to this Amy, whatever her name is. So on one hand, we've got him going to sort his marriage out and get back with her. On the other hand, we've got his fiancée who's flying home and she's there at the scene. Well,
so just for argument's sake, if they were going to invent a backstory for this character, would you not think that they would portray him as completely this wholesome, great lad that had a loving wife and a child, and he was the original family man, rather than having some baggage?
Yeah, they would do, Mark, but it's agendas, isn't it? I say,
maybe they choose to embellish the story to make it more convincing.
Yeah, sorry, say that again.
Maybe they choose to embellish the story with these more colourful elements to make it more.
They muddy the waters, Mark, don't they? They have to muddy the waters to because of all the anomalies that crop up, you know, and they get lost in these, you know, sort of, well, how can he be a nice chap if he's getting back with his wife when he's got a fiancé and whatnot? But there's no doubt about it. The papers played on what a nice chap he was, simply to further or garner sympathy for him, you know. Had they wanted to use it against him, they could have, you know, love rat, saying he'd get back with his wife, and what, you know, had the agenda been different, you know. So there was no doubt that they made him out to be this great, brave soldier, which obviously he wasn't. If he was still a private after 7 years, when even the army website says he should be a corporal after 7 years. He wasn't with his regiment for 2 years. Makes no sense to me. If you're on deployment for 2 years, then you're not with that regiment, as far as I can see. And I say we have the situation where supposedly his fiancée, he's flown home from Afghanistan. Well, I've never met someone who looks less like a soldier than this Amy fiancée bird of his, who's there. She's carrying Peppa Pig, and she's crying her eyes out without tears and whatnot. She's vastly overweight. And not my idea of a soldier, Mark, you know?
Well, this is another problem that a lot of people have, because if we accept that Lee Rigby is an invented persona, it would mean that the family that we saw grieving at the press conference and also visiting the site and, you know, looking at all the flowers in Woolwich were actors themselves, the parents and the wife, and was it the sister that we saw in the footage?
There was the sister there, yeah. Now, the sister is younger than Lee, but she's called McClure, which is the father's name, so... Lee Rigby is actually Lee McClure, and you think, well, why did Lee Rigby change his name? And the younger sister kept the McClure bit, you know. But the dad has refused to be interviewed. Well, the dad refused to be interviewed, you know. What I'd like to know, which I can't find out, is how long the stepdad Rigby was with the mother for, and you probably. Once you found that out, you'd be able to find a lot, you know. But I can't find that out. So again, if this family are actors, then that makes them incredibly callous and heartless and motivated by greed as well, you would assume. Exactly, yeah. And this is what I was going to say. But you know, people think, oh no, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. But people would do that. Now, if you look at their house in Middleton, which incidentally is the same estate that Myra Hindley lived on, you know, there's an old mattress in the front garden. These people are obviously poor and not too fussy. I mean, you can be poor and you know, be house proud, where the grass is all overgrown and there's an old mattress slung in the front garden. And whatnot, you know.
Yeah.
You get offered a lot of money, they've got nothing to lose, so to speak. Say Lee Rigby was killed, whatever, committed suicide, whatever, he died some way or the other. You know, people are going to take it, Mark. If you're dirt poor, you're going to take it. And don't forget that in doing so, they'll have to sign the Official Secrets Act.
Yeah, and you break that, your life is not worth a lot.
Exactly, and there's a lot of pressure put on you know, that we do. I mean, if you take the old, do you remember Princess Margaret when she was seeing John Bindon, the actor John Bindon, who was actually a gangster? Well, John Bindon apparently was fearless, not scared of anyone, and he was a nasty piece of work. Yet MI5 took him for a little ride, and there is all manner of witnesses saying that he was never the same after they dropped him back, after they put the fear of God into him, you know. And this is John Bindon, who I say was a gangster, a murderer, and whatnot, and scared of nobody, but they put the fear of God into him. So someone like Lee Rigby's stepfather and mother, they'd have no problem spelling things out for them.
Yeah. You've uncovered this incredible story from the Manchester Evening News, dated July 2011, involving the attack of a soldier up there. Do you just want to recount what you found there?
The reason I looked for, I came across that was because we're told that Lee Rigby made newspapers when he was 16 because he got shot in the face supposedly with an air gun. Now, the Manchester Evening News, or all the newspapers say that Manchester Evening News say this happened in September 2003. Even the Manchester Evening News says that when they're talking about, in recent times in Lee Rigby. But then when I uncovered the original article was in August 2004. And you think, well, how can the Manchester Evening News journalists get it so wrong? They've only got to check their archives. But anyway, in sort of looking into this story to see whether it was true or not, I came across this article about a fellow called Andrew Pilkington. Andrew Pilkington is without a doubt a very, very nasty chap. Who's been in prison for manslaughter and whatnot, but he happens to look very much like Lee Rigby. Now, what he was done for is he attacked a soldier with two other people. So straight away you have a similarity there, a soldier getting attacked. But one of his accomplices was called Lee Rigby. Now, this happened in Manchester, where Lee Rigby's from. Now, I'm not saying this is the same Lee Rigby who got 2.5 years for this attack, because the ages don't marry up. Although when you talk about marrying up, the 2003, 2004 own newspapers, that doesn't marry up,
But it is a coincidence, and another story involving an attack on a soldier.
What are the chances of the areas Manchester, Lee Rigby from Manchester, attacking
on a soldier, all tying together?
Yeah, and you just think, is that where they get their sort of scripts from, Yeah.
I suppose one question before we finalise things has to be, why would they bother with such an audacious hoax on such a large scale? What could possibly be the aim of doing this?
Well, straight away, straight away that it had to be to further racial hatred for the Muslims. That everything was geared in the MSN. In fact, they broke press regulations on the way they reported it, saying that, by still saying reporting was being beheaded on the 24th, when they knew by the 23rd that he hadn't been beheaded, but they were still reporting on the 24th, which is breaking press regulations for a start. But it did whip up a lot of anti-Muslim or Islamic feeling. When it first broke, the story first broke on the day, the disgusting things that was being said on Facebook really annoyed me, and I wrote a status which was very critical and something aimed at people I've known for a long time. I was that disgusted, and on the strength of this status, it's got picked up, and I had 900 Muslims, or just over 900 Muslims, add me on Facebook, and everyone to a man was sort of thank you for the ad. And what quickly became clear to me, Mark, is that there's no difference between them and me and you. They're just normal, ordinary people, and wanting the same things for their kids, all polite. Some of the women was even very flirty and whatnot, And what also came across, so it was all very scared of where he was leading and what was going to happen to him. So I had one young lad message me who saying, that he was going to give up college because he was getting looked at funny by everybody, And he said everywhere he got the feeling that people wanted to kick my head in. And this man had done nothing, all these people had done nothing, And I was absolutely disgusted with the way that people have fell for it, hook, line and sinker, without thinking and looking and rationalising it, and it is without a doubt, I say, to whip up the anti-Islamic, anti-Muslim sentiment, for obvious purposes, to increase support for going into Syria and whatnot, and starting this war that's going to start sooner or later.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no doubt at all that the whole MSN that was disgusting. That's like you had pictures of a Sikh. Now anyone who's got half a brain knows that a Sikh wears a turban.
Yeah.
Giving over these flowers for the repeat in the newspaper. But in the Daily Mail, they had to say a Sikh hands over flowers to a policeman. You know, why did they have to mention that at all?
I remember in the aftermath of 9/11, there were stories of Sikh temples being bloody attacked because people were too thick to realise the difference between a Muslim and a Sikh. They're just all Asians, so therefore they're all the same.
But and there's a very strong EDL involvement in this, isn't there, as well? I say that Joe Talon, who was supposedly a star witness, he then turned up that night at the mini riot by EDL, although he said he was going to get McDonald's. Well, why's he got a black scarf over his face, covering his face in other photographs, you know? And Joe Talon, it's all in the article coming up. His Facebook is a joy to behold. I found out some things about that, man. But I say then we have the photograph used by Ingrid's son, who incidentally is in the film business, which was taken. We now, or at least I know now, was taken by his friend's uncle's friend, who doesn't want to be named. But this fellow is definitely EDL or an EDL supporter. I say retweeting Tommy Robinson. We have the riot on the night time and whatnot, you know. And I say that as we know, the EDL are a branch of the government anyway, so it doesn't surprise me. But incidentally, Mulgrave Primary School, the hate preacher Chowdhury and Michael Adebolojo were both supposed to have gone to that school. Although we're told, in some people say he was born and bred in Lambeth, so why wouldn't he be going to school in Woolwich? But the general consensus seems to be that he was born and bred in Romford. Once again, why would he be going to Mulgrave Primary School? But Michael Adebolojo, he went to a stage school in Romford, you know. So once again, another acting connection there.
All right, Chris. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. There's lots of food for thought, and I know that your article is due out any day now. And also, you comment on all kinds of other stuff, and you know, particularly paedophilia within the establishment. You go into that in a big way, and it's all on your blog site, chrisspivey.co.uk. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, yes, mate. And I say, if there's already a story on the Woolwich one. On there, life for me, I can't remember the name, and people might want to check out The Camera Never Lies as well, which is about the Boston bomb hoax, which I say proves beyond any reasonable doubt that it was a hoax.
Get in touch with Planet X. Call, text, email, find us on Facebook. The radio show that officially does not exist. This is Planet X. Planet.
Hey there. You, wake up. Wake up!
You're here because you know something. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there.
We've obviously got incredible disinformation on the mainstream media. In fact, it's consistently disinformation.
Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind.
I want you to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real or is this just a ride?
But I've met a lot of people in my life, and I can't, to my knowledge, recall anyone who wanted a war, who had any interest in wars.
I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that.
I felt it necessary to understand why I was here and what here meant. What did that even mean, being here on the planet?
Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
And other people have remembered, and they come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever. This is just a ride.
So today on Good Vibrations, we're chatting with Chris Spivey, who is a former writer for Sovereign Independent, and he now runs his own blog site, chrisspivey.co.uk.
At below Joe certainly was about it, you know?
Well, yeah. And we've got the body in the road, clearly not having any blood around it, even though we apparently see some blood on the
shots. It does in some shots, but again, this is a discrepancy, Mark, because this I believe that he was filmed at least twice, because in some shots there isn't blood, in other shots there are. Now,
2 takes.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe they did this by if you follow on the day I followed as it was happening on the Telegraph's website, and round about 6 o'clock, 6:30, the Telegraph announced that they was evacuating the flats. That's that block of flats next to the sea, which incidentally is the only residential place in that particular part of the street, you know, which must have been like a million to one coincidence that it wasn't more of a residential area. But the Telegraph announced that they was evacuating these flats to carry out a controlled explosion on the car. Now, no controlled explosion ever took place on the car, but even if it had done, there'd been no reason to evacuate the flats because it's by definition a controlled explosion.
Yeah.
But still, I say the Telegraph, and I've got print screens of this that's going into the new article about this controlled explosion on this car that never took place. I think the reason that was done, I mean, the Telegraph wouldn't make that up. And the Telegraph, incidentally, was the feeder paper for all the other news, all the other MSM papers. They all refer to the Telegraph's article, you know?
Okay.
So it seems like the Telegraph was being probably filmed more times than that. Because if you look at a lot of stills, the shop is open. You know, the shop being the used to be the Queen Victoria pub, and that's like a supermarket. But in some shops it's open, other shops it's closed, and not just door lock. I'm talking about the shutters down. So what we have, you have sort of these shutters down on this shop before Michael Adebelojo he crosses the street to speak to this so-called this bystander. Then while he's being filmed, the shop is clearly open, and then seconds after he's been shot, you get a glimpse of the door again, and the shutters are down. So it's sort of like closed, open, closed, you know?
Yeah.
So that makes no sense whatsoever. Plus, the spectators, they change rather rapidly in different scenes. And I say, you know, how could that be?
Yeah. There's been lots of discrepancies that are very well documented in the various YouTube videos that we've seen, and people are highlighting the same kind of aspects over and over again, and asking questions such as who films a maniac that's just tried to hack off a man's head and is still holding the bloodied cleaver, sort of calmly talking to the camera, who stands around looking bored in the background when a guy is just apparently being beheaded or attempted beheaded.
It's a horrific thing, you know. I mean, I've never chopped anyone's head off, Margaret, I suppose.
Me neither, mate, no.
I know that if I did it, I'd be a bit more nervous than what Michael, Cobra. Whoever's heard of Cobra before, I've certainly never heard of it. David Cameron cutting his trip short, the Queen being informed and kept up to date about it, and Ed Miliband, him cutting his trip short, his foreign trip short, you know, and he was totally over the top, and straight away that got my antenna dingling, and you know, it just didn't sort of tie in. They were sort of like saying it was a terrorist attack before they could possibly know that, you know, and you had the Woolwich MP Nick Rainsford saying it was a soldier who had been attacked before he could possibly know that. The MOD hadn't even confirmed that themselves, you know. So straight away, I knew something wasn't right there.
Okay. So you've been all over this story from the start, and you're in the process of putting together this highly comprehensive article.
Yes, yeah, I'm about 18,000 words so far, although this is the second one that I've actually done. You find the other one on my website. But this one relies mainly on the photographic evidence, because if you watch the videos enough times, you get to plot people's movements, and some people have dubious movements, to say the least. But this filming from supposedly just a bystander at the bus, that was, I've got definite proof that was at least filmed by two different people, although we're supposed to believe it was just the one. But I have undisputable proof that it was filmed by two people. I also believe that it was actually...
Okay, it's got a fairly unique style. It's hard-hitting. It's not the sort of thing you'd necessarily share with your local vicar when he comes round for tea, but he definitely gets his information across, and he posts virtually daily on stuff that's happening in the mainstream news, but with a definite alternative slant to it. And we're talking today specifically about the Woolwich incident, which occurred on the 22nd of May this year. There's been a lot of conjecture about this, a lot of analysis of the official version of events, and there's lots of researchers and bloggers who are of the opinion that all is not as we're being told with the official version of it. And Chris has gone into this in a big way. He's preparing an article at the moment which I think is several thousand words long, and it's due to be unleashed any day now. So how are you doing today, Chris?
I'm not so bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all right, mate. Good to kick it to you. We're really going to get inside what is quite an emotive issue for many people, particularly in the UK, because we've had Sandy Hook and Boston and events such as that, and people have called those out as being hoaxes and, false flag type events. But this one is particularly hard hitting for people in the UK because it happened on British soil, and a lot of people have already got upset about various claims that things aren't quite as they seem. But you, in a nutshell, are convinced from your research that this is a hoax event which was used, which was staged using actors. So do you just want to give us an overview of how you arrived at that decision, and do you want to just highlight some of the discrepancies and anomalies and strange things that you've noticed along the way?
Well, I sort of knew straight away, Mark, from the totally over-the-top reaction by the government, this call